Hello friends, welcome to my channel. My name's Lauren, and on this channel I talk about how to heal chronic illnesses, in particular fatigue illnesses, but really any kind of chronic illness or chronic symptom that you believe is rooted in the energetics of your body, the emotional wounds that formed in your childhood, potentially from trauma and really core deep wounding. So on this channel I talk about how to heal those wounds to heal our body, how to heal chronic illnesses energetically by healing old emotional wounds. It's a process because they're embedded deeply into our body from our energy field. And so there's a level of dissociation there. There's a level of disconnection that makes it hard to access because all we're feeling are the physical sensations and not necessarily cueing into the emotions that are there, let alone know what to do with them when they come up. So on this channel, I talk about the process, different parts of the process for healing. Today, I'm talking about the whole picture, what emotional healing sort of looks like in as quick of a nutshell as I can do, while also explaining each part a little bit. I go into more depth in other videos in each part, but a synopsis of like, what does emotional healing look like? All the steps sort of in a framework, like give me the bigger picture, like give me the big overview, the bird's eye view of emotional healing and what it is. So that's what we're talking about today. But before we get started, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and share this video online if you find it helpful. It really helps my channel to grow. And if you want to work one-on-one with me to heal your chronic illness or symptoms via emotional wound healing, you can contact me by my email address down below or by my website, which is linked down below, laurenvoorhees.com. So on this channel, I try to frame everything in terms of energy. I find that a more empowering way to think of illnesses like this for me personally, and hopefully that's helpful for you too, because we all know that energy moves. Energy needs to move, energy must move, and stagnant energy is a bad thing. These emotions that get stuck in our body are energies that are stagnant, and we intuitively know that is bad because energy needs to move. You may have heard the term emotions are energy in motion. But the problem becomes when the energy stops moving, when they're not in motion anymore and they are stuck. Stagnant energy causes disease. Our energy field has tremendous power over how we feel, how we move every day, because our energy comes from source energy, from above us into the top chakras and down in the bottom chakras from the earth. And it moves around our energy fields and through our meridians, and it goes through the chakras as well, which are our emotional energy centers. So when we've got stagnant energy in our energy field, those three parts make up our energy field: the aura, the chakras, and the meridians. When we have clogs, basically, when we have stagnant energy in those parts, particularly the aura, psychics are able to see this. Sound therapy people can feel this, that our trauma gets held in our aura. It's like these tangles that become trapped in our aura, so that when energy is trying to move through us and make a circuit, that's how we get energy, vital energy, life energy, source energy. That gets blocked by these tangles in our energy field. And so to heal from a fatigue illness or these symptoms that are bogging us down, and they're bogging us down because the energy going to the chakras to give energy to the organs and cells in our body aren't working properly. They're distorted, they're getting snagged, they're just not smoothly going in motion. And over time, the stagnation gets more and more, and the impact on our physical body becomes more and more. So in order to heal, we've got to move that energy again, move the energy in our body again, and remove these stagnant pockets in our bodies. So in other videos, I talk about the process before the emotional release. There's a lot of work that goes into before the emotional release happens. You've got to create safety in your body. That means working with your nervous system a lot, because if we're stuck in fight or flight and freeze our whole lives, or most of our lives, we've got a lot of tone in those parts of our nervous system. And we've got to work on stretching that rubber band, bringing it back to the ventral vagal phase, which we often refer to as the parasympathetic. It's the rest, digest, and heal, and happy and joy and creativity state of the nervous system. We've got to stretch that rubber band. So making time every single day, multiple times a day if you can, as much time as you can each day, to make sure you're in that state. We're creating safety in the body. We're sending messages. We're safe, we're safe, we're safe, we're safe, we're safe. You can't do this verbally. It doesn't work. It does not pass the brainstem. You have to do it somatically. So I advocate for havening. If you like tapping, you can do slow stretches. Yoga is wonderful. Putting your feet up on the wall, lying down flat on your back, doing crocodile in yoga, slowly stretching. There are all these ways that we can work with the body to tell our bodies again and again and again that it is safe. We're creating an environment of safety in the body. At the same time, you're doing cognitive work. You're doing psychological work. You're exploring, you're learning about trauma, you're learning about what it does to the body. You might be listening to people, reading things that interest you. You might read about narcissistic parents. You might read about different healing techniques of trauma. Just learning things that will spark ideas in your head. You're starting to make a map. And putting all these links together of what is the story, what is my life story that has created this internal experience? What is the story connected to my body's physical symptoms? And that's going to be, these two things are keys to having an emotional release and integration phase that heals a part of that wound permanently. So you're building up in this phase, and it can take varying lengths of time. It depends on where you are, but it's probably months. If you're really concentrated on it, you can start seeing results in your nervous system in a month. Then as you work with the nervous system, depending on where you start, it's so variable depending on where you start, how much time you can give to these things, how much time you can give to learning and talking through and thinking through your life story and the pains that you have in your body, the beliefs, the limiting beliefs, and connecting wounds, the wounds that are connected to those beliefs, and the time that it takes to do that nervous system reset work. Those are just these foundational things, these big parts of healing. And this part can be kind of fun. The exploration phase can be kind of fun because we're learning about ourselves. We all love to know about ourselves, more and more about ourselves. It's a fun discovery thing. Yes, painful things can come up, but that's why you have tools like havening and tapping and diaphragmatic breathing and these somatic practices to keep that safety in our body and keep ourselves calm when painful things come up that are new or surprising or something like that. Then you get to the release phase. And the release phase is when something gets triggered, an old wound that's connected to a belief gets triggered and your body responds. It goes into fight or flight or it goes into freeze. So a big part of the first stages of a healing is to start to learn, how does my body see, look, and feel when I'm in these three states? Ventral vagal, which is rest, digest, heal, be happy and joyous and creative. The sympathetic state, which is fight or flight, is like high alert, activated, pupils dilated, heartbeat quickens, lots of things quicken, but digestion slows down. Parts of our autonomic system, like our heartbeat, speed up, mental processing speeds up, reaction time speeds up, digestion slows down. And then the dorsal vagal state, which is the freeze state, shut down, collapse state. That's when everything gets low. You feel heavy, depressed, hopeless, like you weigh 1,000 pounds. Emotional range goes down, the range decreases. You're in this low state. There might be anger, irritability. There might just be like these thoughts of just hating your life and that it's never going to get better. Learning how it looks for you. What does it feel like to you? What does it look like? Because then when you are triggered, you can see that you're triggered. Because we get so used to the things that we get triggered by, or we get so used to feeling fight or flight activated, or we get so used to the way freeze feels in our body because it's just like, well, I'm just always tired. This is just my life. Okay, this is how it's always been. This is me. That's how it feels when you're stuck in a trauma state. And you're stuck in a trauma state because these wounds have never had any place to go. But now you're learning where to take them, what to do with them, how to start moving them. So a trigger happens, and then you can recognize, oh, my body's in fight or flight, or my body is in freeze. And then notice what triggered it. What was it? When did I start going back in time and start to see what is it that started me in this state, that activated me? Freeze is the one that you usually have to think about more because it's more subtle. It feels more ingrained when your body is really used to going into freeze. But the same can be true of fight or flight. Depending on your nervous system and trauma responses, one can be stronger than the other. One can be more prevalent in your life than the other. But because freeze is a down regulation, sometimes it can be harder to notice right away. So then starting to notice and looking back at what was it? Was there a thought? Was there an interaction? Was there a thought in reaction to the interaction? Probably. And then with the thought, what is that thought connected? What belief is that thought connected to? Is there a disempowering belief that's underneath that, that's connected to that thought? When you identify a belief, then you can think, what is the wound then? If there's a disempowering belief, there is a wound, a deep wound. What could that be pain about? Now, the belief might give it to you right away, or you might have to think about it. Going through that process, that's a step in the healing process. It's that noticing again and again and again, and then using your nervous system tools to calm yourself down. You send your body messages of safety. At some point, emotions are going to start coming up to the surface, or maybe those are easy for you. Maybe they come up earlier in the process. For things that involve freeze, probably not. But things that we are highly identified with, that we're very aware of the wounds and we're really like in it, like we are the inner child always, and that wound just like sparks emotion immediately. That's another piece here, that it's that level of disconnection, that cognitive work of, this is an energy in my body that needs to be moved. This is not me. Even though it has been my whole life, it's not me. It's this thing on top of me. It's this thing on top of me, stagnating energy and weighing me down. So at some point, you're going to have a release. Emotion's going to feel safe to come up, and something's going to trigger you. And then the emotion is going to come up and out of you. It's going to feel like it needs to come out. It's going to be tears. It's going to be screaming, probably tears. And grief is probably going to be a major emotion that you deal with again and again and again and again, because that's the biggest energy that needs to be healed in trauma. There are so many things that you need to grieve along the process in your lifetime, not just from your childhood. I mean, those are the big ones, right? And yet all the repercussions that these wounds have had on your life, the way that it's shrunk your life, the limitations that it's made on your life, there's loss there. That needs to be grieved too. And the illness, all the loss that comes with the illness itself needs to be grieved. So grief is going to be a major theme. That's heart energy, that's in your heart chakra, and in Chinese medicines, it's in your lung meridian, but that's still your heart chakra. It's that band. So you might, an emotional release with grief, you might feel it in your heart or your lungs, somewhere in your chest. However, when you're dealing with powerlessness, which is the big energy I'm dealing with right now, there's a lot of rage in there too. So with powerlessness, my experience thus far is that screaming is a major part of that. Screaming into a pillow, screaming in your car, out in the woods so no one gets scared. Not in the woods, but like at an empty street where nobody is and hears you screaming. What I keep finding is that when I scream and release rage, very often right after that, I will access the grief that's underneath, and the pain, the tears that are underneath. But I would say the screaming is a lot less in the healing process than crying. Crying is going to be the main way of emotional release. And you've been doing all this work of creating safety and compassion. So what the cognitive psychological work does is it helps us bring compassion to all the things we're experiencing and all the ways that we've suppressed ourselves. And that compassion is key. It also creates this level of separation between us and inner child. When we learn all about inner child work, it's this cognitive separation that we're making, that this is not me, it's a wounded part of me. And all that work is essential to do, because when the release comes up, to get it out cleanly, you need to have all those parts. So it'll always be evoked by something in your current life, but it's going to hit the same pain that originated in childhood. This is how, if there's an old wound that's coming up to be healed, that's what it's going to look like. It's going to be a current real world trigger, right? That's happening right now in the present. But the pain is going to feel a lot deeper than if it was just that and there was no old pain connected to it. That's what's going to bring it up. But because of all this cognitive work that you're going to do beforehand, there's going to be some awareness that this is older than this, that this is deeper than what I'm crying out right now. And all that cognitive and intellectual work that you did can help you bring compassion to it, because you know so much of the story. And you know probably why, you probably have at least some idea of why this is coming up, what's it connected to, and compassion for that little girl or boy who's feeling it. These deeper wounds can be really heart-wrenching. They can feel gut-wrenching. It can be really intense energy. However, your body's not going to bring up things that you're not ready for. So in the beginning, it's not going to have the incredible intensity, but it is going to be painful at first, because when you're first moving energy, it hurts. When something's been stagnant for a long time, it's going to hurt. It's going to feel incredibly painful, but you just have to realize that it's not going to be this painful every time, but more so you're going to get sort of used to the feeling. And it's because it's a new energy that's moving. It's a new energy that you're feeling. Even if you have felt grief before, when you're accessing a level of grief that's old, it can feel new and painful. But also remember that it's temporary. The other reason that it can feel painful when you're first learning how to do emotional releases is that part of the energy can still be stuck. So it's like some energy is moving and then others is stuck, and it's just like it doesn't have this clean feeling. That's okay, you're still moving energy. It doesn't have to be clean every time. It does not. You're still moving energy. But you'll notice that it feels different. There are some times when it feels clean, and that is when there aren't any barriers. There aren't these unconscious blocks coming up to block it when it comes up. And it's just moving. And you've already done this initial, it's a muscle. It's an energetic muscle that you're using. We're not trained to think in these energetic terms. This is back to what I was saying in the beginning. This is why I use energy, because I just find it much easier to conceptualize what's happening, because we can't see it, we can only feel it. That's because it's energy. And I personally get really overwhelmed trying to learn about just the biology alone, because it's so complicated, and it makes me personally feel powerless, because everything's expensive and it never moved the needle for me anyway. So it just was very evocative of my powerlessness wound. This is why supplements never worked for me. My body believed it was powerless, that the supplement was more powerful than me, the doctor was more powerful than me, and so it sent my body into wild states and spasms. So I work energetically, and so that's what I teach. I also think it's very empowering, because you can do all these things yourself. You don't need anybody else to do it, except the learning tools like we're doing on this channel, or if you want to work one-on-one with somebody, because it's so helpful and it speeds the process along so much, especially if you can work frequently with the person. So these emotional releases, like that's the sort of crescendo. It's like the peak. It's what you've been working for all this time, is to bring that energy up and allow it to happen. Allowing is not as easy as it sounds. Allowing, when you have complex trauma, it just doesn't happen because we tell ourselves to allow. It just doesn't happen. There's training, and the first training that happens is with the nervous system, because you have to have that calm bed, that calm foundation, in order for any energy to move. It's not going to move if you're in a threat state. It just won't. You might be able to cry, but it's not going to move up and out of you, is what I mean. So when you have really intense emotional releases, this is exciting. This is a reason to praise the Lord, praise universe, and be so grateful to yourself for all the work that you have put in. Because if you're having really cathartic and these clean emotional releases where you feel like there's something deep that's being moved, even if it's not clean, if it's something deep is being moved, it tells you that your work is paying off. It is paying off. You are doing the work, and the work is showing results, because you could not do that. You cannot force these emotions out. If there's a way to do it, it's really difficult, and you will probably re-traumatize yourself. If you just trust, you do all this work of trusting the body and what it's ready to bring up, you're never going to re-traumatize yourself, especially if you have these tools like havening and tapping, these somatic safety tools. So first of all, just be excited, because you just moved a packet of energy that will never come back. It's because you're connecting body, mind, and energy, or spirit, while you're releasing the wound. This is how real healing happens. And the reason that so many people get stuck is because they haven't integrated all three systems: the mind, the body, the energy field. You have to have all three of those involved. And that's another reason that I focus on energy, because it's the piece that everybody misses. It's that spiritual piece. It's your aura. That energy field is where the trauma is stored anyway. So if you try to go with the body and mind, sometimes that will work. But a lot of times people get stuck in their healing because the energy is not being fully moved. So when you connect the mind, you have a sense of what the emotion is, where it came from, and a little bit of separation. You're unmerged with that energy because you see it for an energy and a wound that's part of you, not equal to you. It's not you. That's the mental part. The body part is the safety, creating a safe space for that energy to move. And then your aura, your energy field, the energy is moving through your body, using your body as a vessel to move that energy. You're bringing compassion and love to these energies. That is the other spiritual aspect here, the other energetic aspect, because all emotions are energy. So those loving emotions that you're bringing as best you can with havening, with tapping, and with the compassion work that you've done in your mind, it's like you're bringing all these pieces. Then when the energy moves, it's complete. It's complete. One of the things that can help make that complete energy is to speak the words of your inner child. As you're accessing that pain, to speak the words that she or he is feeling. They don't have to be logical. They can sound incredibly mean, judgmental, unfair, doesn't matter. This is a temporary state, and there's anger there because there is unjustness. There is so much unfairness. You didn't get what you needed. And so one tool to use is to speak the words that your inner child would say and witness them and have compassion for them and know that this is coming from a child. It doesn't need judgment. It just needs to be seen and held and loved for what it is. She or he needs to feel free to express those words, and that's going to evoke more energy. It's going to evoke more emotion, and it's going to unstuck some pieces if they were stuck. It's going to help that energy move cleanly. So whatever you need to do to create safety while you're releasing, whether you can do that just energetically or you do havening, you do tapping, you just hug yourself, you hold yourself, you rub anywhere on yourself, you're just giving yourself love wherever you need it, you want it. Sometimes like stroking my abdomen and circles. One of the ways you can tell that energy is moving and that your inner child is feeling seen is if you get chills or if you get goosebumps as you're speaking or as you're thinking. It's usually speaking though. If you speak something from your inner child, and maybe it's something different to you, like your hair stands on end or something, it's like it's that truth energy. There's an undeniable truth here. Even if it's incorrect, like it's an emotional truth. That's what creates that energy. So if you feel that like rush of energy over you, especially down your arms. So if you're speaking from your inner child or you're speaking as your adult self to your inner child, saying whatever it is, it could be I've had that feeling from the simple statement of I know. But because there was something I knew about her pain, but I didn't know exactly what it was, but I did. It's just that I couldn't put into words exactly what that pain was in that moment, but just speaking and seeing her, feeling her pain and saying, I know, and getting that rush of energy. That's another way that you can tell that you're onto something and that you are close to the energy, or that you're speaking to her, that's a way that she can respond, he or she can respond and be like, yes, I feel seen, I feel heard. And that you're moving energy. You're moving emotional energy. That's a good sign. That's a good little tip. One of the biggest ways you can tell that you had a nice emotional release is that you feel lighter, brighter, more energetic. You might feel a little euphoria, but that doesn't always happen. That just can happen if it's like a really clean one. But if it's not, sometimes what can happen is that, especially if you've been doing a lot of speaking to somebody, or if the energy gets sort of concentrated in your head and in your, psychology. One of the things that I've been using more recently is using body work to move the energy, complete the energy movement. So let's say I'm done with a release. I've cried as much as I can cry, or maybe I've screamed and I've cried. And I'm feeling like this. Well, I either just feel exhausted because I can't release anymore, my body's too exhausted, or it's very heady energy. Like it'll feel like compression, and like it just doesn't feel good. Like it was a good release, I thought, but it was like I don't feel good still. what you can do is stand peacefully and just listen to what your body might need to do. So I've mentioned I'm working on with powerless energy. So after screaming and crying, sometimes I need to complete that energy movement because something is still like stuck in there. Like it's still not out, but I'm too exhausted to keep going. And I don't feel the emotion about to come out anyway. So I'll do whatever my body wants to do, but this some kind of movement of energy. So with powerlessness, I want to embody power in some way. In psychology, this is called self-writing. It's self-writing because you don't want to stay in the dark places. You want to go into the dark places, feel and hold those dark places and hold your inner child in these dark places and really be there, be present with it. And then when you're done, you need to find a way to like self-write, like bring yourself back into an empowered place. So when you're working with powerlessness in particular, finding this way to feel power again. Not just walking away after screaming and crying from powerlessness, not just walking away with that energy, but doing something to empower yourself. So what I like to do is I'm sore. I'm like really sore from the one I did the other day. So doing this is like feeling it, but like pushing energy really hard away from me. And picture whatever you want, or just picture where that rage came from, where that powerlessness feeling came from, and you're pushing it away and you're pushing it away. You might want to shake that energy off. You might want to kick your legs, kick it away, thrust it away with your hips, like headbutt it away, whatever your body wants to do. Like arms always feel really good to me. It's like it feels really powerful, but sometimes legs too. Well, I've really used all my body parts at this point, but with powerlessness, I don't know, that pushing energy feels so good. And I also expel energy really firmly and assertively when I do it. Like pushing that energy. And then, the Tony Robbins moves of like, if you've ever done an event with him, he like has you do a power move and it's like something. You just like, you're expelling energy and you're saying yes. That's been working for me. It's like, do something that feels really good and empowered. Like, I am effing powerful. And if you can access that energy after you were feeling powerless and you had a release, like even if you've been powerless for weeks, for months, like you've been embodying powerlessness, I'm speaking from experience. If you can access power after crying and or screaming and crying, that's a big deal. Because like I could not have accessed that before. I could not have forced myself to be powerful and do powerful motions before. Each time I've had these emotional releases, I'll be like caught in this energy and just like being there with it, being there with it, being there with it, being there with it, seeing it, and just bring as much conscious attention and love to it as I possibly can, and just waiting for something to come up, just waiting and waiting, weeks, months. This is a really, really highly dissociated one for me. It's taken so much time and work in this area, but like I could not force myself. I know that self-writing, it means that I released some important energy. But again, this phrase of releasing packets is key because it's not all at once. You don't release your whole powerlessness wound in one go. If you do, let me know and tell me your secret. But I don't think any of these energies work like that. There's this long process of building trust with the inner child again, and she's going to let up whatever she feels like is safe to do so. So this last piece is really key for integrating the energy through your body too. The self-writing thing is most important, I think, with the ones that are most like highly identified with, the ones that we most highly identified with, and the ones that are this powerless, especially like using your body after the release. The release created space, and you're going to fill that space with power, not disempowerment, not anything else, not junk energy. We're going to fill it because we just released this energy and we've made space in our energy field, and now we're going to fill it with effing power. but healthy power, like empowered power. So that moving that energy, now I think of it as like the beginning of the integration phase. It's this key piece of like inputting healthy energy in place of where you just released toxic energy from your body. You're inputting empowerment, you're inputting healthy beliefs. And it's usually like the opposite of what that was that you just released. Inputting that healthy piece, this juicy, ripe, new energy, you're embedding it into your energy field to stay. And even if it's just a little piece, even if it's just a piece that you can't feel right away, most of the time you're not going to feel the permanent impact of one release. It's an accumulation. And so at some point when you're healing certain wounds, you'll start to look back and be like, you know what, I feel different. Or you'll think about a way that your body felt a while ago and be like, wow, I actually have made progress. Like sometimes they're very progressive, and because we are just us in ourselves, it's hard to keep perspective. And that is another reason it is so helpful to work with somebody one-on-one on a regular basis, because they can give you perspective. They can witness your process and give you perspective on how far you've come and how big the shift that you just had was in the perspective of healing. So helpful. I so wish that I had had that. Like a coach like that to really see the process, know the process, and see what I was doing and be able to put that into perspective. So this is like a synopsis of the healing process. I was inspired by one of my clients. She asked this question, like what the whole process looks like in like a nutshell, and what it looks like in the day-to-day, like to put it in a package. So if she's listening, you know who you are, and thank you for inspiring this video. So I hope this was helpful to you. If you'd like to work one-on-one with me, please email me down below or check out my website, laurenvoorhees.com, to book a session. I also offer a 30-minute free consultation. That's on my website as well. It's all under the book a session button. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it online if you think it would be helpful to somebody that you know. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I hope you guys are doing well out there in your healing journey. I know the energy is just like crazy right now, eclipse season, all kinds of stuff happening in the astrology. So I know the energy's tough. I know it's intense. I know it's intense. I hope you're doing well out there. Good luck on your healing journey, and I will see you on the next video. Take care. Bye.